Hello and welcome back to another video, and today we are trying out TrackDayR. Now this game came out quite a while ago, about a year and a half ago now, and to be honest I did intend on actually doing a video on it when it first released, but stuff ended up coming up and I ended up not bothering. I did play it and honestly I didn't think a lot to it, but I thought a year and a half later it's been constantly being updated over that time, why not give it a chance now, see if it has improved any. Now, first of all, the menu music isn't completely blaring, so that's definitely an improvement, because that was the first thing I noticed when I actually played the game initially. The menu music was unbelievably loud. Now, if you don't know what this game is, obviously it is a bike game, very similar to GP Bikes. I think it's pretty much a competitor to, I think that's what it's designed to be. Obviously, as the name suggests, you do track days. You can also do races as well, though, because there is AI and there's also multiplayer as well. So maybe we'll have to try out a couple of different bits, do a couple of different videos on this. But I think we'll probably just stick to the time trial, the track day sort of aspect for this video. So if we look at the bike list here, you've got quite a lot of different bikes. Now, when I played the game, obviously when it first came out, it was quite a while ago. There was not nearly this many bikes. For example, there's now dirt bikes that weren't in the game before. I don't think there was baggers in the game when I played it. I think there was only really like the 600, the 1000, and the Ovale. I think they might have been the only three bikes when I played before. I could be wrong because obviously it was quite a while ago. Now, I'm not going to bother with any of this down the bottom. I think I probably will just jump on a 600. I'll jump probably on the Triumph 600. And then in terms of tracks, if we go to TrackDayR, there's a few MX tracks that weren't in here before. In fact, there's actually quite a lot more tracks than there used to be. There's also mods to this game you can get, but to be fair, actually out the gate, there's quite a lot of tracks to pick from. So I think I'll probably go with the TDR World Circuit, see what that's like, and which you get to pick here. We'll probably go for noon, duration. I'll give myself 30 minutes just in case. Automatic shift off. Difficulty, I guess go pro, race, I like his race options. But I guess we'll get into it now then, so I'll see you down on the track. So you can see here we are in the pit lane, and I've accidentally gone into photo mode. I'll try to look behind me, and I've pressed down on the left stick, and that's put me into photo mode, so that'll be worth noting. That I'll have to probably look around with the... Actually, I don't know how you look around, maybe you can't look around. So we've got the pit limiter is L on my keyboard, so we'll press that. That should disable... No, that's not disabled the pit limiter. Yeah, that has now though. So first of all, the bike is very sad up, so it's giving me a lot of tutorials. I think that's because, again, I've not played I basically played the game like once. I've not really played it since, and so far we're keeping on the track. So I put it on Pro, but it does feel like there's assists in there. You see, it's almost turning around the corner for me, which is bizarre, because I put the assists on Pro. It didn't really give me a full list of assists, but it has like some sort of turning assist built in, it feels like. It sort of turns around the corner for you. Like, you see, I'm not turning now, I'm sort of going straight, but it still kind of turns me anyway. Like, obviously when I'm actually properly turning, I have now started to put the analog stick in, but and I've lost the front, so that's first crash. Now, this game actually had bike retrieval before it was cool. This was actually made before Milestone made it, because this game came out just a bit before MotoGP 21, so bike retrieval wasn't actually a thing yet. So I think if we press Y, we get back on the bike. It actually bumps out the bike as well, which is pretty cool. Right, so try it. There we go. Hang on, again. I'm probably not going quick enough, to be honest. It works better in second gear. Yeah, there you go. It's because, oh, hang on. I've gone into this camera again. I don't know why the camera is down the right stick. Every other game has down the right stick to look behind. And instinctively, I just press that so nice to look behind me. I know, obviously, there's nobody else on track, but it's just in my head that when I'm getting back on the bike, I should look behind me. But yeah, when you want to bump start the bike, seems like second gear is the gear to do it in. Doesn't seem to work in first gear, which is interesting. I don't know if that's how it works on some of these bikes, but every bike I've ever bump started, you want to do it in first gear, so yeah, that's interesting. So the track is fairly flat, but the actual environment around it is not. This part around here definitely reminds me of Mazzano a little bit, so you can see there's probably some inspiration taken from some real life tracks, which you may as well do, but I gotta say, the physics are very, very bizarre. Like I said, it almost kind of turns you towards the corner before you actually get there. I'm actually going to put no input in here. Oh, so that time it didn't really turn me, so maybe actually I'm slightly wrong with that. I think it's when you've put a small amount of lock in, it seems to turn you an awful lot, and it catches me off guard, because obviously I'm used to playing milestone games, GP bikes, and you got to put a decent amount of lock in before you start to turn. You also seem to walk through the bike. That's interesting. We'll pick the bike back up then, and we'll run that back to the track. It is worth noting that, of course, this game is made by a small team of developers, so it's obviously quite a big project for them to take on. So if there are a little bit of jank in a couple of places, that's just how it is. You know, it's impressive for what it is. Like, considering only a couple of people worked on it. I've really not done this bump start very well, have I? Well, that no way should. Again, I've done it. There's no way that should have bump started from that slow. You definitely need to be running that a bit quicker, because that was barely moving. I've bump started that, and I've got way too fast to this corner here. And now I'm on the opposite side of the track, so let me... Oh, and there's a tyre barrier. Let me get back to the racing line. So yeah, like I was saying, I've not played the game for a long time, of course, but also the physics are very strange. Like, they don't feel like anything I've ever played. Like, their bike is quite floaty. It turns very quickly, very well. And I've lost the front again, and down I go. That was... It does seem to took without warning, which I've got to say is an improvement. I have to say that's an improvement, because when I played the game before... obviously, when it first came out, you basically couldn't crash unless you crashed deliberately. Like, you could trail the brake in, like, completely or whatever. You could only crash by actually going on the grass or on the gravel. You couldn't actually crash by just going too fast through a corner or washing the front out or losing the rear. So that's certainly an improvement, so I'll give them props for that. I need to actually probably do a couple of laps before I comment too much on the physics, of course, but they are very strange. The bike seems to move like almost immediately. Again, I think that's what was catching me off with the corner, so I thought there was some sort of turning system, but it wasn't. It's just the fact that it was moving so quickly. No, is it going to bump start? Yeah, so it bump started from literally, I don't know how many kilometers an hour that was, but that must have been less than 1, almost, because I was pretty much stopped. So there's a lot of cool little features in the game, but definitely something that needs a bit of work. So the steering, it turns a lot more than it leans as well. I think that's also part of the problem. Like, I've got a hell of a lot of turning while the guy is still sat up quite a lot, which just feels off. Like, it feels like I should be leaning in probably more before... Like, the more you lean, obviously, the more turning you get. A valid lap, yeah, I'm not too surprised about that one. But you can see now, like, I'm getting a lot of movement on the straight there, and that's... Well, my friends may laugh at this. I was trying to make a minor adjustment there. I mean, I am one for probably taking big swings at the stick, but even still, I was just trying to make a minor adjustment to my line on the way in, and it seemed like it was turning an awful lot. So, really, the responsiveness, like, it's right there. Like, it almost matches the stick input. I think that's what it is. So, like, when I'm at... So, instead of having, for example, like, I've got my stick at 100% lean, it doesn't slowly go towards 100% lean. It just sort of sets the bike to like 100% lean, if that makes any sense. So the steering's super sensitive. It's obviously going to take a while to get used to. So back on the track again, and here we are. I think we're on a long lap penalty loop over here, actually. So I should end up there. But so far, it's not going too successfully. We are crashing quite a lot. But honestly, the physics are very strange. The bike is super responsive. It almost feels weightless, if that makes any sense. Like, it moves like immediately. And I know we're on a 600, but they're not exactly weightless. I mean, look how tight it could turn, which is... It's cool it could turn that tight, and don't get me wrong, you can turn some bikes that tight, but it just feels like there's no weight behind it whatsoever. And I also get no feedback as well, like I'm not getting like really any vibration whatsoever. And when I tip it in, it just seems to float. It kind of reminds me of actually a game that I made at university, which is a weird thing to say. Just the way it turns actually is very similar to that. Quite instant, and I spent a long time trying to sort that out, and I never successfully did it. And again, I seem to crash that. I think that's just as I touched the rear brake, I've unloaded the front, so I think I've just taken the weight off the front suddenly through the corner by putting the rear brake on. So I think that's probably my issue, why I keep losing the front so much. But we should bump start it again from 3 kilometers an hour. I'd say that's definitely one thing for the devs to try and improve, like the actual running. I know they're probably trying to make it less frustrating, so that when you get on the bike, you can just press the button and just sort of start the engine again, but then why have you bump start it if that's going to be how it works? Just maybe have it as a setting. If you could have it as a setting where, you know, you could not bump start the bike, or you can bump start the bike, that then sort of gives you the best of both worlds. And I know, again, I just keep having the same crash every corner. Okay, that time I really did bump it from 0 kilometers an hour. I've accidentally put it in neutral instead of first as well, and actually catch first. I mean, you can bump a bike from quite slow, but you need it to be moving somewhat. Like, it's not gonna really bump from 0 kilometers an hour, I don't think. So I'm gonna probably just keep trying to go around for a little bit. Once I've got the hang of it a little bit more, I'll probably come back and start talking again a little bit. Oh! Oh, oh my god! Okay, I didn't expect that one. I was trying to go to that corner. I thought, you know what, I'm picking up some speed here. And I thought, I've gone too quick. But I certainly didn't expect that. The front wheel's still having a bit of a time. I don't know if there's a way to quick respawn to the track. Oh my god. Oh, look how fast the guy's running. I think it's a bit buggy downhill, to be honest. Right, you know what, I'm going to actually just get back on the... I'm just going to bump start it on the gravel. It is worth noting the difference in grip compared to the tarmac and the gravel isn't a lot. Like, you can't lean as much, clearly, but the actual... I mean, I can still probably lean more than I should have done. And the speed is not, like, inherently a lot lower, and it doesn't seem to slow you down a lot either. And don't get me wrong, I don't mean to sound too negative when I do this, when I say this, because like I said, it's a small team, so it's not going to be, obviously, immediately 100%. But then that's why it sort of gets updated, because obviously things improve. So I'm just trying to give some healthy criticism. I'm not just, like, banging on the game for no reason, don't get me wrong, guys, but I'm just saying how it is for me. Obviously, I've played a lot of GP bikes. I'm not saying I want a game just like GP bikes, because, you know, that's not 100% realistic itself either. But you can see where it's lacking in a few places this game. Again, this actually does remind me a little bit of my my first GP bikes experience when I was crashing a lot and I couldn't understand the physics. But here I can almost feel what's happening. Just the bike doesn't feel like it's got very much weight to it at all. There's then very little warning for me because it's hard to judge the speed when the bike has no weight. I know that doesn't really make much sense, but you can almost... just in your head, you just adapt to it. So you're like, oh, okay, it weighs this much, and you kind of know what to expect, but it just feels a little bit floaty and just not quite right with anything, the turning and the braking, which is why I keep obviously having the same crash over and over again. And you can see how on a dime it turns. Obviously, I've lost the front there. Again, that's the same thing I keep doing. I keep sort of trying to pivot it on the front, and it's just not going to work. So that is my bad, but... yeah, overall it does feel quite weird. I think I'm going to keep going until I can just try and get one lap done, but I'm already 16 minutes in, well, 14 minutes in, because I gave myself half an hour, and I've only got 16 to go, so I need to pull my finger out a bit. Well, I'll tell you what, that was probably one of the most frustrating experiences of my entire life, that there. I know that lap wasn't perfect, I actually ran off on the penultimate turn, but that is the first lap I've done without crashing. Now, I know it looks like it's probably been about 10 minutes, because there's 2 minutes left. No, I restarted the session, so it's been almost 45 minutes. Which is absolutely unreal. But Yeah, so that's given me a lot of time to be able to understand the physics a bit more and think about it, and I've got to say, there's not really much redeeming about them. I know I've tried to be quite positive throughout the video, because, again, I don't want them to take this as really harsh criticism or anything like that, because I know, again, like, it's a small team and stuff, but yeah, the physics are just quite bad, to be honest. The bike's so floaty, the steering just feels wrong. You fold the front for absolutely no reason. It just happens randomly. The bike, the steering is inconsistent, so you can... I mean, you can see I was probably trying to steer out of corners a lot because it would just sort of turn you towards the apex. Again, like how I thought earlier there's an assist. I don't think it is. I think that it just... Such a little angle makes it turn a lot, so even when you virtually sat the stick up, you're still turning in, so you still turn in more towards the corner. You can see I've just fallen off then, trying to even go slowly. The only positives I can really take from playing is that it's certainly improved since I last played it, obviously a year and a half ago, which you would hope so. It's definitely improved, like, for example, you actually can crash now. Like, that front end thing was not an issue last year, because you couldn't crash unless you went on the grass or the gravel. Or you really, really wanted to crash, like, you just wouldn't crash. And obviously the menu music, you know, not blaring in your ears anymore, that's obviously a big improvement. The engine sounds pretty good, but overall the physics are not... That's just where it lacks for me. It just feels not right. It seems to turn... The turning just seems so erratic. The bike feels like it has no weight, and there's not really much difference in grip between the road and the off-road. Even though I've crashed a lot in the gravel, that's usually because I've already crashed by the time I've got there. Yeah, it's improved since I last played it, but it does still have a way to go. Perhaps I'll have to come back to it maybe a bit in the future. I did think about maybe coming back and trying out the AI, but I don't think I'll be doing that, at least for the time being. Maybe in another year and a half, I'll come back and see if there is any improvements. But I hope you did enjoy that video. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you'll stay safe, and I shall see you in the next one.